Hey everybody, Wayne here. In today's Let's Play, we're going to do a tutorial playthrough, honestly, partial playthrough, of Midway Solitaire by Joseph Miranda, published by Decision Games. This was originally released in magazine format in World at War magazine in, I think, 2017, 2018. It has just been released this year as a deluxe version. So this is the deluxe version. The counters are thicker. I believe they're the same size, 5/8 inch, I believe. They're thicker, and then it comes with a mounted map instead of the paper map. So you don't need to use plexi unless you want to. The map mostly lays flat here. I'm getting a little bit of pop-up here. I had it laying flat. I think the humidity levels have been changing lately, so it's starting to pop up a little bit. But nothing that I don't think it'll bother the video, and nothing that when I'm playing I really notice too bad. So we already have a recon unboxing. I'm going to do this tutorial partial playthrough where I'm, as you got, everyone who knows, I'm going to describe everything as I go. So it's going to be a slow play, right? As I'm literally describing things, explaining things, my thoughts, how the game works, etc. But we'll get through at least a couple of the game turns, which I'll describe how the game works in a second. After that, I do plan to have an overview and review video coming, probably the week after, probably next week after this gets posted. So I'm not sure exactly which day this is going up. So again, we'll play through a couple turns. I'll explain things as we go. You guys know the deal. So let's go ahead and get to the overview before we actually get to the gameplay. All right, let me do like a quick overview before we get into actual gameplay so you guys know what's going on. Obviously during the gameplay though, I will, explain each thing as they're happening. So overview, you can see the map. We have it set up. It's a full-size map. You can see the Pacific here, North Pacific, Central Pacific, South Pacific, Wake Island, Midway, the Aleutians, Alaska, the west coast of the U.S. Just explaining the map, explaining the different holding boxes. South Pacific, Solomons, Australia, Port Moresby. Now, you have, the sort of the game map itself is in the central. It only takes up about, a third, a half of the map in total. The rest of it are going to be charts and holding boxes. So, as usual with these types of games, especially Solitaire, you have a lot of the charts on the map. Movement tables, attack priority tables, deployments, repair tables, etc. I'll explain them as we actually use them. The key component of this game, though, is the fact that your forces, while you may see certain forces on the map, for instance, here in Midway, you can see we have some Midway bombers, that are actually on the map. And I'll explain the numbers on them when we get to probably our first battle, I would say. Yeah, let's save it for then. But a lot of the game is made up of task forces, and you can see these holding boxes, top right for the U.S. Navy, top left for the Imperial Japanese Navy. Generally, I'll probably just say Americans and Japanese, just to simplify it and make it go faster. So, with the task forces, you can see visible units for the Americans. You play as the Americans in the game, defending against the Japanese attackers. The Japanese forces are, you can see, turned upside down. You can't see what they are, right? So that creates that fog of war, that confusion, which was obviously a huge part of the Pacific War. Within each of these task forces, you can go ahead and look at the U.S. ones just to make it a little easier. For example, Task Force 16, you can see there is a Task Force 16 marker here in Pearl Harbor. Now, you see this, you can go ahead and look, Task Force 16, the holding box over here. It has a leader, Spruance. You have cruisers, destroyers, and then also, and then those are, seaplane tenders, AVD unit. And then you have the Enterprise and the Hornet. Now, Enterprise and Hornet, obviously are carriers. They have aircraft. Well, where are the aircraft? Now, each of the carrier air groups has its own holding boxes. So for the Enterprise, you can see it has air units here, Hornet air units here. Same thing will be for the Japanese, right? Now, we don't know exactly where their carriers are. That's hidden from us. We don't have that intelligence yet. However, you can see their actual Japanese carrier air groups, and you can see them assigned to each of the carriers over here, the different aircraft. So what's going to happen each turn, you can see the sequence of play track up here. It doesn't have a traditional turn track. What it has is, it has these operation markers. You're going to be drawing an operation marker, and it's going to tell you what the Japanese are going to do that turn. For example, and we're not getting into the gameplay quite yet, but I'll just explain it quick. So, you draw Operation MI, Operation Midway, which let me point that out. The Japanese have 4 operations. They have 4 routes. You can see the lines. And that's where this game has shades of states of siege, right? We're kind of defending against the Japanese. They're pushing along these routes. So you draw one, and in this example, it would activate the Midway route, which, if you look from here, you have AL, which will say AL1, AL2, just as you can tell, where it is. MI, Midway, SO, the Solomons, and MO, Moresby. So those were, key operations the Japanese were conducting in the beginning of 1942. So you draw that, you're activating that route. Now the Japanese are going to run through their sequence of play, and we'll actually cover that during the gameplay, but they'll run through that sequence of play on the Midway route. Whether it's moving their task forces, engaging in combat, the Japanese launching their aircraft, us maybe launching our aircraft. Then we get into our turn. We have a variety of actions we can take, or our phase of the turn. Japanese phase first, then the American phase. Ends with an administrative segment, and then we're gonna grab that bad boy off there. And then the turn is over. So you're gonna go ahead and do that. There are 22 operational markers you're going to be go ahead and drawing. So basically the equivalent of 22 turns in the game. Obviously, you're trying to hold back the Japanese. Japanese forces are going to be trying to take their objective spaces, which are obviously they're going to be the green spots. So Aleutians, Midway, the Solomons here, and then Port Moresby. As they take them, they will be at the end of the game when you check victory points. They're accruing them. They're taking away from yours. You're accruing victory points. They will take away from your total. Obviously, there's a certain number in the game you want to get to, whether it's going to be, you lose, a draw, or a U.S. victory. So I think that's good enough for explaining it. Let's go ahead and dive in to the actual gameplay playthrough, and I'll explain that stuff as we go. So, all right, see you in a second. All right, let's dive into the actual playthrough here. So, first off, you're going to go ahead and draw a marker. The game doesn't have, and you can go ahead and reference the sequence of play track up here. The game doesn't have a turn marker or a sequence of play marker because you're actually going to use the operations marker you draw on that track. Let's go ahead and draw one. The first segment of the turn, and as you can see, the turn has multiple segments. It's Japanese phases from this segment to that segment. Then this is the American phase, and then this is the administrative phase. So go ahead and draw an operations marker out of your cup here. We drew Operation AL, so that's the Aleutians up here. So we go ahead and place the marker really on the Japanese operations termination segment, but then we go into the next segment, which is the search attempt. So on this segment, on an activated route, which we activated the AL route here, right, the Aleutians route, we determine if there's unspotted U.S. Navy task force within basically a certain distance from any of the Japanese forces. Now, it's the very first turn. The Japanese forces are, for the most part, back at either their home islands or their bases, Truk or, they didn't even reach Rabaul necessarily. It's back at Truk or Japan. So odds are, they're not going to be spotting anything. The closest task force is Task Force 8, which is way over here. So no worries there. So for that, we're not even going to go necessarily roll for searching because, frankly, there's no one in range to search. All right, so we go to the next segment, which is the Task Force movement segment. And by the way, that's why I'm probably going to play multiple operations, because I want you guys to see, every part of the game. So I want you guys to see the search attempts as they're done. But I wanted to start the game at that very beginning so you could see from the beginning. Okay, on to the Japanese movement segment. First off, what you're doing on the activated route only, you're checking for each of the task forces. You're going to roll for movement. Very simple. There is a chart, Imperial Japanese Navy Task Force Movement Table, and you're going to roll for each of the task forces. So let's start off with the 2nd CSF. And it has a different column for the different types. CSFs, so carrier task forces, or carrier strike force, are going to move faster and farther than something like an invasion task force. Makes sense, right? Carriers and their escorts are going to move faster probably than an invasion task force that's made up of slower troop transports. All right, go ahead and roll. Start off with let's get the American die out of there. Let's go ahead and roll, starting off with the 2nd CSF. A 3. We check the table, and I'll have the table pop up so you guys can actually see it better. All right, we rolled a 3, which that is 2 spaces. So we're going to move it 1, 2. And with you're moving these spaces, very simple. You're moving spaces. There's going to be rules for movement when you get to, objective spaces. They're going to stop, or if you get to home bases, they stop before them. It's all in the rules. Very simple. All right, let's check the invasion fleet. A 5, which is 2 spaces, so he will join the carrier strike force. And finally, roll for the main body. Roll to 1, only 1 space. So the main body itself, lag him behind a little bit. All right, now at the end of this segment, after you've completed movement, you go ahead and draw a incident marker. So these are special events that happen, or may not happen, just depends. Let's see, incident intelligence. What does that mean? Now it's all in the book here, and I don't have them memorized, so I do have to check the book for that. So intelligence, what does that mean? If drawn during the Imperial Japanese Navy movement segment, which it was, all USN task forces on the current route are automatically spotted. Oh, okay. So spotting is a big part of the game. I'll explain it a little bit here, but really it matters when it comes to combat. So what they're talking about is, if you look on our route here, we have those task forces. Task forces have a regular side, and then they have a spotted side. You cannot launch attacks, and it's both the Japanese and the Americans. You cannot launch attacks unless you have spotted a task force. Now, you can launch attacks against, objective spaces or home bases, things like that, because obviously you know where that is, right? They know where Midway is, but they don't necessarily know where the task forces are, and then if they're spotted or not. So, technically, this one will become spotted up here in Alaska. And now the marker just goes back into the cup. All right, that's it for that segment. Go to the U.S. reaction segment. So for the U.S. reaction segment on the activated route, again, just for this one, sometimes you can do different routes, different actions. In this segment, it's only for that route. We can launch carrier-based bombers and fighters against any spotted task forces, which there are none, so not going to matter, or island bases. Again, we don't even have any carrier-based aircraft along the route right now. All we have is Task Force 8 up here, which if you look, we have some cruisers and destroyers in Task Force 8. We don't even have any aircraft carriers in the Aleutians right now. And then we can launch, naval aircraft or land-based aircraft fighters for same space cap missions. However, there are none in the Aleutians. The only thing we have is up in Alaska, the fighter here, but he doesn't need to do any cap up here because the Japanese are not going to be attacking Alaska directly this turn. So we can basically go ahead and move past that to the next segment, which is the Japanese air unit launch segment. So this is where they're going to be launching attacks against spotted task forces or bases. Now, spotted task forces, which they did spot that one, but I'll tell you right now, knowing the range of aircraft, which if you look at our aircraft here, they're going to have a range in the bottom right. And I'll go ahead and pop up a little graphic for you guys. But basically, bottom right is going to be their range in spaces. Say a fighter is 4, bomber might be 3. I know that for the fact that 3 and 4, they're not going to be able to reach all the way to Alaska. So not going to be attacking that base, or the task force there. However, the Aleutians here is only 1, 2, 3 away. They definitely may be attacking the Aleutians. So, and this is one minor downside of the system. Obviously, we need to know, do they have aircraft that can attack? Well, I know they're going to have aircraft because they have a carrier strike force here. So there's going to be aircraft carriers, going to be aircraft. They may not be attacking. We'll get to that. So we do have to flip over to check. So they're not spotted, but we do have to at least check. So let's go ahead, the second carrier strike force. Let's flip over the units here. Okay, so there's a cruiser, there's the Kaga, and the Shoho. So there are 2 carriers. So the Kaga here, and where's the Shoho? Trying to move a little bit so I can see it. Okay, Shoho and Kaga here. So, and then we want to check the invasion force, which is invasion AL, to see. All right, there are none there, so we can flip them back over. Let's go ahead and flip the cruiser back over as well, because it's not technically spotted. All right, so the Kaga and the Shoho. So they will potentially be launching aircraft to attack the Aleutians. So what we can do is, so we have, what does this then? The Kaga and the Shoho. What I like to do is just grab those aircraft, set them over here, so I remember. Kaga and Shoho. All right. Now, we want to check for bombers first, and then we'll check for fighters to see if they're escorting them. So for each of them, let's go ahead and what you're going to do is roll. So for the bomber here, say the bomber off the Kaga. You have a IJN Air Mission Determination table. Again, I'll have the table pop up so you guys can see it better. But you're going to go ahead and roll on that. Now, he is a bomber NAC. NAC means naval aircraft. LAC, land aircraft. So he's a naval bomber. So for the NAC bomber, go ahead and roll a 1d6. And everything really you're rolling 1d6 for. A 5 is attack objective. Which really what would happen is, in this case, because there's no aircraft there's no task forces, he's either going to attack the objective or he's going to attack nothing. And now we know we're going to have a battle, which, by the way, he can reach. So if you check, his range is 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go ahead. We have a battle display down here. I'm going to place him on attack objective. And then I'm going to place a battle marker here on the Aleutians because, well, we know we're going to have a battle there. Speaking of which, I'm going to place the American, basically the garrison, the CD, the Coastal Defense Unit, place him in the CD box here. All right. So we check for him, check for that bomber. Now let's check to see with the fighter here, see if he escorts him or not. Rolled a 2, so NAC fighter, cap. So he will not. So he stays as a cap over the task force, which I like to place him above to show he's a cap. Let's check for the second bomber. This one from the Shoho. Roll a 5. NAC bomber 5 is attack objective, so he will also be going to attack the objective. And finally, the Shoho's fighter here, a 5. NAC fighter, 5 escort, so he will go with the Japanese as an escort. All right, so that is, the Japanese, they're launching an attack, right? Launching an airstrike on the Aleutian Islands. They're sending 2 bombers with a fighter as an escort, and they're having 1 fighter stay as cap. So now we go to the mutual combat segment. Now, it ain't be much for combat here because our American forces, all we have are a coastal defense unit. But we're still going to run through it quick and simple here. First off, you do air-to-air step. So that would be if there are any air units firing at each other. There are none. Anti-air step. Fire all ground and naval units air combat factors at enemy air units. So this one is where our coastal defense unit's going to fire at either the bombers or the escort. He's going to fire at the bombers. So what we do is we look at our units. And again, I'll have it pop up for you guys to see. When you're looking at a unit like this, and this is a coastal defense unit, the numbers on the left, they're the same whether it's coastal defense, whether it's a bombing aircraft, whether it's a naval unit, etc. They're all the same. What they are, very simple. Top left is their anti-air. Now, our coastal defense unit has an anti-air of 2. And then when you look at something like this bomber of the Japanese, it has a 2 in parentheses. What does that mean? That means that it only fires anti-air at aircraft that are attacking it. So if we had some cap aircraft that were going to attack it, some fighters, it would shoot back at them. We don't have any, so it's not going to worry about that. So and then the second number down on the left, in the middle number is the anti-naval number. So basically that's when it's attacking ships, right? So you can see, say, our Aleutian coastal defense only has a 1. Not very good. Higher is better, by the way. The bomber here of the Japanese has a 5, so fantastic against naval. Bottom left number is against ground targets, which a ground target would be, for example, our coastal defense unit here. So what you're doing, very simple. I'm getting ready to go. I mentioned the anti-air step, fire all ground and naval air combat factors at enemy air units. So we want our coastal defense to fire at one of these. We're going to pick this better bomber here. So when you look at his numbers, I mentioned higher is better. What you're doing when you roll for attack, you roll 1d6. If you get that number or less, it's a hit. Above it, it's a miss. So we know that we want to eliminate any units with higher numbers. So this one, the bomber from the Kaga, is definitely one we want to try to eliminate. So what we do as the Americans, and it's different for the Japanese, as the Americans, we assign our defenders to shoot. So we assign, say, fighters, the defender, any naval ships, we assign them to the unit, saying we're shooting at that unit in particular. When it comes to the Japanese, you're actually rolling all their hits, adding up their hits, and then assigning them according to an attack priority chart. You'll see that in the future. Okay, so right now we're attacking this the Val Bomber here from the Kaga. We're gonna roll a 1d6. We're rolling against our 2, so we want a 1 or a 2. We got a 3. That's a miss. No good there. All right. So now you would do any anti-naval step. Well, there's no ships involved. This is all aircraft attacking the ground. Now, air ground. Fire all units at eligible ground units. So they're going to be attacking our units. Again, with them, you're just rolling to see the hits. It is going to be against the ground. So the Shohos is a 1. The Kaga's Val Bomber is a 3. So let's go ahead and roll. So with the Shoho, against a 1, so we want a 1 or less. Well, they do. We don't, right? We want them to roll higher. And then 3 or less, a 5. That's also a miss. So miss, ineffective bombing, miss with their bombs, whatever the case may be. Now you'd run through, there's surface engagement. Well, it's this air battle. There's no surface ships. Amphibious assault. Obviously, there's no ships there launching amphibious assault. So finish up with the battle conclusion. We'll go ahead and we will say the battle is complete. There's no multiple rounds, by the way. It's all just one. And now, you return everything back. Return all surviving naval units to where the battle took place. Ground units remain in place. And then determine if a side has to retreat. This was just an air attack, so there's no retreating necessary. That would be if you had, multiple task forces in the same space. Generally speaking, they won't coexist in the same space. So let's go ahead and we can put everyone back. Get rid of the battle marker. He'll go back to the Shoho and Kaga. Everyone basically returns saying, we dropped all these bombs. I don't know. I think we got them. And including the Cap here, he can go ahead and return to his carrier. So basically, that combat, that was bunk. They launched a long-range attack. Didn't work for them, but that's good for us, though. So trust me, that'll be good, because there are going to be some attacks in the future that are going to raise heck. All right, so that would be the mutual return segment. I didn't move the marker, but basically that's what that is everyone, going back to where they're supposed to be from. And that really comes into play, especially when you end up destroying carriers, because then those aircraft have to go somewhere. They can go on other carriers, but if there's not enough room for them, which is a limited amount of room on each carrier, the number in parentheses is the amount of room they can have, or amount of air units, then they're going to either have to land on a land area, a base. If there is no base, then they're ditching at sea. All right, on to the Imperial Japanese Navy. So Japanese, let's say that so make it go quicker. Morale segment. What this is, it won't apply this turn, but what this is for every Japanese carrier, either CV or CVL, or battleship eliminated since the last morale segment, you make a morale check. Basically, you add up the units. So say that we had eliminated somehow 2 carriers, or a carrier and a battleship. They would roll a 1d6. If they roll less than that, so if we had eliminated 2, they would need to roll a 1. If they roll a 1, you're going to flip this marker over to withdraw. And they're going to move away. They're done with, and it doesn't change back. That's it for the rest of the game. They are done. They're saying, nope, we got to pull back and get out of there. Save our units. It's pretty rare, I would say, but you do want to make sure to check each turn. Obviously, we didn't eliminate any units. They attacked us. So we can basically skip that segment. All right, now the Imperial Japanese Navy logistic segment. This is where you check for see any damage units. See the holding box over here. Reduced land aircraft units. So say we had somehow attacked Wake and then we reduced their bomber. Or damaged CVL units. So it's damaged bases, damaged land units, and damaged carriers. You would go ahead and roll on a repair chart to see if they are repaired. Obviously, nothing was damaged this turn, so we're going to ignore that. All right, now we go to the American phase. So now this is where we get to take our actions according to what we want to do. There's going to be 4 separate segments. Basically, there's a organization segment. We're spending a little more organization time. We're going to do intelligence, which is where basically scouting, trying to spot different task forces. We'll do our actual operations segment and then wrap it up with a logistics. So first one, G1, organization. During the organization segment, we can reorganize a task force. So a task force that's in a space, we could go ahead and reassign, units to it or take them away. We could create a new task force, We can recruit reinforcements from the reinforcements box. We can replace naval aircraft that are in the eliminated units box. we can replace land aircraft, or we can replace a coastal defense unit. Remember, like this one of the illusions that we fired with. So, what do we want to do? Well, I would say we definitely want to build up our we want to continue to build up our forces here. We want to get our carriers closer, and we also want to make sure that we can, defend our areas, right? So the Japanese right now, they're a little farther away for the most part, so we may want to spend a little time building up our forces here. So first off, let's go ahead. Let's do, what should we do? Let's go ahead and recruit reinforcements here. So any of the reinforcements in the box here, basically we can just go ahead and take them out of there, and we get to place them either in the West Coast or Pearl Harbor, or if it's the RAF unit, we go ahead and place that in Australia. So looking at what we have right now, let's go ahead. I don't like the fact that the Aleutians are I feel like they're not very well defended. Well, we already have forces up there though, don't we? All right, let's go ahead. I know what we'll do. Let's grab this destroyer here. So we're going to recruit reinforcements, select one unit. So we're going to select this destroyer unit, place it in either the West Coast or Pearl Harbor. Let's see. Because the Pearl Harbor has Task Force 16, which has 3, 4, 5, 6. We want to have another carrier there, though, in Pearl Harbor. So let's go ahead and do West Coast Task Force 11. Yeah, let's do that. So we're going to place it in place it in the West Coast. He doesn't go straight to the task force. He goes to the West Coast. Let's put him on water. All right, so go on to these G2, which is our intelligence actions. Here's where we could launch, sort of a search, try to see, back over there, what's going on. So we can do a naval air search if we have a carrier, battleship, or cruisers. We can do a search within 2 spaces, which we don't really have. I don't think anything like that going on yet. Again, most of our forces are deployed farther back. We do a seaplane search from AVD unit or a CD, so coastal defense unit, which could be up to 3 spaces. So technically 1, 2, 3, we could search there. 1, 2, 3, we can there. Here we could check. We're not going to do those things. What we're going to do is signals intelligence. We could also then select, which is what we're going to do, select one of the following actions. All Japanese carrier strike forces that are on the U.S. side of the Japanese perimeter defense line. So you can see Japanese defensive perimeter line, right, is this sort of dotted line. Anything that was on the right side, the American side, we'd automatically spot. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to go ahead and pick number 2 option to do, which is randomly pick one operations marker, so just like we do for the game, and we're going to get to look at it. And then we get to place it as the next one. Midway. Oh, well, Midway. Beginning already. So we go ahead and place it right here. I like to place it right there. Just shows that we know Operation Midway is going to be happening soon. All right. That's it for G2, intelligence actions. Let's go to G3, operations actions. Again, we're kind of trying to maneuver our forces around. We're not really looking at, engaging in a whole bunch of combat yet. So I don't know if we're going to do any naval action. Let's see, where are we at right now? Ooh, actually, Task Force 17 looks pretty good. Let's actually do... give me 1 second. All right, so we are in segment G3, the American operations actions. So we can do one of a number of things. First off, we can do a naval operation, which is where we would select a route. We would move, any U.S. task forces. We would launch, our carrier-based aircraft. We would then check for a Japanese reaction on that same route. And then there would potentially be a battle, etc. So, do naval operation. Or we can do a land-based operation. So similar to the naval one, right? You're going to pick a route, go ahead and select some land units, launch an attack. Japanese, now they might not have the same reaction from naval forces, but, it follows slightly different sequence of play for that. But potentially combat, the end of that. Or we can redeploy a task force, which is basically we can take one of our task forces from a certain area. We can move it to an adjacent home base, which the home bases are the large squares. Objective spaces are the small ones, little colored ones. Large squares like this or rectangles, etc. Those are going to be home bases. You can go ahead and redeploy it. Say you can move Task Force 16 from Pearl Harbor to Samoa here, or you can rebase air units, which you can move any and all of your land aircraft, naval air units, to any one space to any other space. So you could say all the aircraft here in Alaska to potentially relocate. Technically they couldn't because Aleutians only can allow one, which if you see a airfield here, there's a number next to it, that's the max amount of aircraft that can be in that location. So Aleutians can have one, which they have 0 right now, so we can definitely put 1 there. Those are the different choices. Naval operation, land, redeploy, rebase air units. We want to get some of our forces moved up here. I would like to see, I know that Midway's going to activate, but they're pretty far away, so I'm not, the forces are coming from Japan right now, so I'm not super worried about that. I want to get, what I want to do, I'll tell you right now, is in the next phase, next segment, I want to get Saratoga rebuilt, placed with this task force, and I want to get it up there. That's my thinking anyway. So what do we want to do right now, though? I think we should do a naval operation. Here's what we're going to do. Select a route. Let's go ahead and select the Solomons route. So SO, which is this one right here. Let's go ahead and select that one. We can move any and all U.S. task forces, right, using the naval movement rule. Movement, super simple. A task force can move, depending on if it has a leader or not, how many spaces it can move, also if it has a battleship or not. Task Force 17, which you look over here, has destroyers, cruisers, 2 carriers, and it has Fletcher in command. Because it has, does not have a battleship, it can move 2 spaces. So it can move from New Caledonia onto the plotting route here, and then it can move up to the Solomons, which we're going to go ahead and do that. And we're going to stop there. We're going to get any closer, but I want to defend the Solomons. I want to make sure we have our units up there. So we went ahead and moved them. After movement, our incident markers, go ahead and draw one of them. See what happens? We drew incident weather. Okay, so what that means is, going by the book here, we're not going to be able to launch aircraft. So, for instance, we check weather. Neither side may launch any air missions on the current route during this. It says segment. That's errata. It should say phase. So, for this American phase here, which is really right now, we cannot launch our aircraft. So, instead of, potentially, we could have said, okay, Task Force 17, we have 2 carriers, right? Yorktown and Lexington. We could have launched our aircraft and attacked Rabaul. Was I going to? Probably not anyway, but that's what it is. So, no aircraft this turn. That also, though, does mean that the Japanese don't get to have their reaction. Because what would normally happen, if I hadn't drawn the weather marker, is that they would have a Japanese reaction. What that means is on this active route, they would check to see if there is a American task force unspotted within the search ranges of their bases or any other task forces. They just have a Rabaul base, so they would have checked. So they would have rolled to see. Now, say they had succeeded, we would have flipped Task Force 17 to spotted because he is 2 spaces away, which has to be within 3 spaces of a base, so plenty close enough. They would have then launched their, naval aircraft to any carriers. And then I believe, let's see, would they have launched carrier? Okay, they would not have launched they would not have launched an attack though with their naval or their land units. Apologies, using all this terminology sometimes starts getting all mixed up when you've been talking. They would have launched the fighter as a cap. They would not have launched any bombers though. Okay, that makes sense. So they would have had a cap ready for me if say it had attacked, but the bombers would not have attacked me. If they had naval units, right? So that if they had them close enough, which they're too far away, they maybe would have done something. Anyway, it's a moot point. Because of the weather, no aircraft are getting launched this turn. All right, on to G4, the logistics segment. Here is where you can do multiple things. You can repair damaged naval units, so check your holding box over here. You can repair damaged naval aircraft, or repair damaged land aircraft, or repair damaged land unit, coastal defense unit. In our case, we want Saratoga, baby. I want the Saratoga back in action. So what we do to repair damaged naval units, select up to 2 of them. So you can try to repair up to 2 per turn. And then what you do is for each one, designate either the West Coast or Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor can only repair 1 unit each turn. So we'll go ahead and put Saratoga next to Pearl Harbor here. Then we still have to roll, though. Now we go ahead and check the USN repair table. For a carrier, we want to roll a 4, 5, or 6. A 1, 2, or 3 does no good. So we need to roll high. Come on. We need a 4, 5, or 6. 1. Terrible results. So Saratoga is not finished yet, so he's going to stay in the United States Navy damaged units box. Bummer there. All right. So that is, well, that's it for that segment. We go to the administrative phase. Administrative phase, super simple. You just check to see if there are any spotted task forces, which there was up here. You flip them over to their unspotted side. And then go ahead and take the marker from the administrative phase and place it in the IJN operations marker already played box. And that is one complete turn. Now we'll go ahead onto a second turn. All right, start of another turn here. Now remember last turn we did the signal intelligence, and so we had picked the Operation Midway marker, so we already have that picked. So go ahead and slide it on the sequence of play track. Go ahead and move it over to the Japanese search attempt segment. So Midway is the first time they're activating this route. So looking at the searching, and then looking at where our task forces are, it doesn't look like it's going to matter. Again, we have a task force way back here in Pearl Harbor. That's way too far away for them to find, so it's not gonna. They're not going to get a search attempt on that. So we go to the next segment, the Japanese movement segment. Just like before with the Aleutians, we're going to go ahead and roll for each of the task forces, see where they move. First one is the Carrier Strike Force. Roll to 3, so he moves 2 spaces. 3. Second is the Invasion Fleet. Roll to 4. That's 2 spaces. Invasion Fleets generally move a little slower, as I described earlier. That's a 6. Oh, I'm rolling the wrong die, though. That's okay. We'll take the 6. We still rolled it. That's my U.S. die. I'm supposed to roll that. I'm supposed to roll the Japanese die for them. All right, so that was a 6, right? 6 on the main body, which is 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. So he joins the... took the guard with him. Here. And then finally, we roll for the guard. And we roll the Japanese die. Try to keep the theme, right? Guard, 1. It's only 1 space. So he just moves out from Kyushu. All right. That's it for the... Oh, nope. It's not it for the movement segment. Excuse me. Now we draw the little incident marker. Incident weather. Oh, so this is a big effect on us. That's actually, no, it's not, because they're not close enough anyway. Never mind, not a big effect this turn. Later on, you're going to see the weather when you draw that shit. It could make a huge impact on the battle, right? Whether they're going to be launching their attacks or you're going to be launching yours. Right now, they're far enough away that it's not going to matter. So, but just like before, we drew the weather, which means that there's poor weather. You know, we will not be able to launch aircraft during the reaction segment, and they will not do either in the air launch segment, right? So during their phase, again, from here to here, cannot launch any aircraft. Place it back in the cup. All right, so no reaction because we can't launch aircraft. Neither can they because of the weather. So there's not going to be any mutual combat. Now, just because you're not launching aircraft doesn't mean there wouldn't be combat potentially if you have task forces in the same space. If they had moved in the same place, even if there's no aircraft, there may be surface action, right? They may be attacking coastal defense units, etc. We just don't have any of that going on because they're still approaching from the home islands. Mutual return, can ignore that. Morale, nothing was eliminated, so no need to worry about that. Logistics, nothing was damaged, so no need to worry about that. So now we go to the U.S. turn. All right, G1, organization actions. So, we probably will do reinforcements, I'm thinking. Remember, this is where we could, mess with task forces, create reinforcements, replace some units, or replace the coastal defense unit. I just don't see... yeah, because we want to get that one rebuilt and sent out there, don't we? Let's see. Recruit reinforcements. Yeah, we'll just do reinforcements. I think that's probably the best bet here. Let's go ahead and... let's get this fighter here. Oh, no, should we do the fighter? Hang on. I know, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm just thinking here. I'm like, why should we... reinforcements? So, West Coast or Pearl Harbor. So, all right, let's do West Coast here, right? Actually, yeah. So we're going to recruit or reinforce this AVD unit reinforcement. Let's go ahead and place him on the West Coast here. Yeah, let's do that for now. Okay, that'll be it. So that's it for G1, G2, intelligence segment. Once again, looking at kind of the areas. I don't know if we're going to launch any attacks, so I don't know if we need to try to, do naval searches, seaplane searches. Let's just do signal intelligence again for now. So we're draw from the operations cup, so we know what's coming next. Ooh, victory spirit. Oh, boy. So with Victory Spirit, you're checking for units that are damaged to see if you play multiple, etc. We'll get to it when we explain it. But basically, it's just a little different. Okay. All right. So that's when we know we have that coming. Let's go to G3, operation segment. Again, we're going to do a naval operation. We're going to do a land operation. Are we going to do, redeploying our task forces? Are we going to be rebasing air units? Looking at it right now, I know that we moved him last turn, right? We went Task Force 17 up to the Solomons. Let's see. How many aircraft we have at Port Moresby? Okay. Let's go ahead for now. Let's leave our units. I still want to try to get the Saratoga repaired and part of Task Force 16 here at Pearl Harbor. So let's go ahead. Let's do rebase air units. So you can move any or all air units from in any one space. So we're going to pick Australia here. There are 2 air units here, 2 bombers in Australia. And we're going to go ahead and do any other space within 2 times their range, which their ranges are 6 and 6, so up to 12 spaces away. It's awfully far. Don't worry, we're only going to move literally 2 spaces. And we can go ahead and move them to any, U.S. controlled space, home base, carrier. Let's go ahead and move them to Port Moresby here. We're going to add them to the bombers, which Port Moresby can have up to 4. So this is the maximum number of air units, at least land air units. You can have naval units, obviously, because they'd be on their carriers. All right. Also, when you're doing that, there can't be Japanese units. You have to meet the air capacity. It does not cause the Japanese reaction. So rebasing units does not. And then also, there's no combat available at all. So that's fine, though. All right, let's go to G4, the logistics segment. Now, again, we can repair naval unit, repair some aircraft, or repair land unit. Try and repair Saratoga. Let's see if we can get it to Pearl Harbor here. Let's go ahead and roll. Come on, lucky American die. We want high. Repairing carriers, a 1 through 3 is no effect. So it did not work, so he is not repaired. That's bad, very bad news, very bad luck for us. So that's it, though. On the administrative phase, no one was spotted, I don't believe. And we'll go ahead and grab the marker, place it over the operations marker. So some turns take longer. When there's combat, they take a lot longer. When you don't have combat, they usually go a lot quicker. But that's another turn. I think we're gonna go ahead and definitely do a couple more. All right, let's go ahead and begin this turn. Now, we had already done the signal intelligence, so we knew that's Victory Spirit. Now, that is a special action, right? A special operation. What that is that the Japanese are seeing, how their victory is feeling, right? And then they're going to react accordingly. What that means is, first off, you do 2 key things. You check the total number of U.S. carriers and battleships in the eliminated or destroyed, which in this case we have 1, the Saratoga. It started that way, but it still counts. It's in there. So you check against that. They would roll a 1d6. If it's less than, which technically on a 1d6, right, you cannot roll less than a 1. So it's not going to be that. If it was less than, you would actually take 2 of their operations markers from the already played and replace them back in the cup. So that would kind of give them more oomph, right? Like, we're kicking so much butt, we're going to keep going. Obviously, like I said, they can't roll less than a 1, so that's not going to happen. At the same time, the second thing you do is you total the number of Japanese carriers and battleships that have been eliminated or damaged. You roll a 1d6. If it's less than, you take 2 from the cup and actually place them in the already played. Again, that's sort of the opposite, right? Saying that they've suffered so many losses, they're not, their war spirit's down, victory spirit's down, so they're not going to do as many operations. Neither is going to happen because, frankly, there's only 1, you can't roll less than 1, and here there's 0. So those aren't going to happen. So the nice thing is, because we rolled it now, although we didn't, lose any operations markers, the nice thing is that is all the Japanese do this turn. And so you go all the way that their phase is done, and we go right to the U.S. phase, which is good for us because we really want to get Saratoga in action. So, all right. So G1, organization action. Let's go ahead. We did recruit some reinforcements before. We got those all the way. What's Task Force 44? Yeah, we want to get them moved up too, but we can't do that this turn. So we may end up creating another task force here. Sorry, guys, I'm thinking out loud, right? So trying to think of what, how we want to do this, what we want to get going on here. So we have Task Force 16. We want to get Saratoga in them and want to go ahead and move them up to Midway. Task Force 17 is looking pretty good. I think, yeah, it's looking decent anyway. Let's go ahead. Let's do, so Task Force 11 here. Let's see, want to reorganize it? Yeah. Okay, new task force. No. Hang on. Recruit reinforcements. Let's keep doing that. Let's go ahead and get this battleship here. So let's get the battleship reinforcement. Let's go ahead and put him in the West Coast. So let me see. Recruit reinforcements. Select one unit. Yeah, let's do that. We'll put, should we though put the West Coast or should we put? Yeah, we'll just do the West Coast. That'll be fine. Okay, that's it for G1. Intelligence segment. Let's do our classic signal search. Oops, excuse me. Trying to draw a marker. Later on, when we get closer with the enemies, we'll go ahead and do more of the searches. So redeploy. What that's going to do, that's a special operation. What that is the... I'm trying to look at the... Redeployment is check each route. If it does not control, you place it in... Okay, well, we'll get to it. It's actually a long explanation on that. So we'll just get to that when we have next turn. So, okay, that's when we know what next turn is. For now, our operations segment. We have our forces moved here. Let's get Task Force 44. Let's get that moved up to Port Moresby here. I want to make sure that they stay pretty strong. So let's go ahead, Task Force 44. Let's do the... let's do that. So let's do a naval operation, which we will go ahead and move Task Force 44. Task Force 44 just has cruisers. We're going to go ahead and move it. We can move it 1, 2. We're going to move it into Port Moresby space here. So, all right, basically just beefing up Port Moresby here. The reason I'm doing that is because last game I lost Port Moresby, so I'm all defensive now. I'm like, I gotta make sure to protect it. I know. It's just game's probably gonna play out totally different, so you never know how it goes. All right, go to the next segment, G4. Let's do our logistics. Again, trying to repair Saratoga. So let's try Pearl Harbor. Let's roll. Again, we need 4, 5, or 6. Roll a 1. Okay, it's getting ridiculous. I'm getting annoyed. I guess that's the downside of luck, RNG is sometimes you keep rolling, and you're not going to get it. So that's a big bummer. All right, administrative phase. No task forces to flip over to unspotted. So we go ahead and it's already played. And on to redeploy. Next turn. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into the next turn. We're going to keep playing here. I want you guys to, again, get a good idea of how everything goes. We haven't seen combat yet, which I'm getting a little... which is fine because it makes sense because they haven't really pushed. The game starts off, it's more maneuvering, reinforcing, and then as the game goes on, it gets into start getting into combat. So you only saw one combat. I'd like you guys to see at least one more, maybe involving some task forces. That'd be pretty cool. Like American ones. So let's see here. All right. What are we doing here? So we have the redeploy. So that is you check each route. If it does not control any objective spaces, you place the redeploy marker in the operations marker already played pool and randomly pick another one. Okay, pretty simple there. Basically, I think that what that marker is if they controlled, say, Midway. Well, they would then they'd focus on other areas, right? Because they already have that. I believe that's how it would be. I think those task forces may move from Midway to a different line, and then you follow the random deployment table. So I think my last game I played the same thing where I drew it and it was too early in the game. So you can see when you draw these, it just changes the game. So, okay, the Aleutians here, Operation AL. All right, so that's the operation drawn. So it's going to be activate the Aleutians line. Japanese search attempt. Task force is way back here, so no need there. Japanese movement. Go ahead and roll for the invasion fleet. You roll a 5, which is 2 spaces. Jeez, I think we're going to lose the Aleutians here. I don't think we're going to be able to defend it. A 6 for the carrier strike force. It's 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3. So he goes right into the Aleutian. So when he enters that space, he becomes visible because he's spotted now because he's obviously entered the same space as, my units. So, oops, I already had, forgot to flip these back. That's okay though. And carriers. Excuse me, cruisers. And then let's roll for the main body. a 5. They're rolling really good for movement. 1, 2, so he's here. All right. Okay, movement is completed, so let's go for the incident marker. Weather. Whoa, weather again. Brutal. Okay, so they will not be launching aircraft. So being in the same location, they're definitely going to be launching their aircraft and attacking the islands here. However, they will not be doing so due to weather. So that's actually very fortuitous for me. So reaction segment, I can't react, unfortunately, with aircraft because, well, the weather, but they also weren't able to launch theirs. So I'd call that a win. So, yep, no launching of theirs. They're, let's see, for mutual combat. There will be mutual combat. So what we do is we go ahead and, because we're in the same space, there's going to be combat. This is what I mentioned before. Even with no aircraft, sometimes there's combat. Battle. So all we're going to have, though, is a coastal defense unit. And then they have a cruiser and then their carriers. All right. So we go ahead and place them, Imperial Japanese Navy Force, their ships, and we have our coastal defense. Let's go ahead and run through the combat sequence of play here. It should be pretty quick. Air to air, there's no aircraft involved. No anti-air, air naval, none of that. Air ground, none of that. Surface engagement. So here we have all the naval units and CDs fire at enemy surface naval units. So our coastal defense is going to go ahead and shoot at them. Let's go ahead and let's pick. He's going to try to shoot the Kaga. I don't think it's going to work, but he only has a 1 for against naval units. So let's go ahead and roll. He's going to get a 1 or less. He gets a 4. No good. No hit. Now we're not going to have, an amphibious assault because there's no TRs, which TR is the troop transports, right? So that invasion fleet here is I can't see it, but I'll tell you the invasion fleet's where the troop transports are. Once that's here, they would be attacking the land and trying to take the Aleutians. In this case, it's not going to happen. So the combat is basically over there. We get to shoot at them as they kind of came in range. The weather was poor. They weren't able to launch. And so they're going to go ahead and end the battle, and then they're going to retreat. If they'd had troop transports, so that's the invasion fleet, it would actually stay in the location. But because they don't, he's going to retreat. So the second CSS is going to retreat, and we'll go back. All right. Okay. Battle is over. That's it for that. Mutual return. There's no aircraft to return. IJN morale. So again, they did not lose any carriers or battleships or anything, so we don't have to worry about the morale. Logistics, none of their ships are damaged yet, so don't have to worry about that. And then we'll go to our turn, the American phase. All right, and I think we'll try one last time maybe with Saratoga. We'll see. All right, so organization. I'm not a fan of. I hate the fact I don't feel like we're gonna lose the Aleutians here without a fight. We're gonna have to fight up here. So let's go ahead. Create task force. Create that task force. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and create a task force. So this task force, or reorganize, I guess I should say, task force 11 here. Let's go ahead and assign. So what we'll do is create a task force. 11 can have 4. Perfect. So we'll put the battleship, the ABD, and the destroyers in Task Force 11. Boom. So Task Force 11 has been kind of organized. That's it for G1. G2 intelligence. Too far away, though, to launch and attack, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, but that's... Yeah, too far away. Dang. I was hoping to do a different intelligence action this turn, but I think we're just going to do the same. Yeah, let's do the same. Okay. All right, Operation Midway. There's a lot of those in the cup, I'll tell you that. Okay. All right, that's it for G2. So G3, Operation segment. Let's go ahead and get... Let's go ahead and do redeploy task force, which we're redeploying task force 11. We're going to move it up to Alaska here. Yep, that's what we'll do, and that'll be it for then. Then G4 logistics. Let's go ahead and attempt a repair of a damaged naval unit. Saratoga. 4, 5, or 6. Come on, baby. 3. Are you kidding me? All right, not meant to be. I think next turn we're just going to start moving the task force up to Midway, because probably should have done it this turn anyway and just got him moving, but, well, I wanted to wait. I was hoping to get another carrier in there, okay? I don't want to have just 2 carriers against the Japanese. I want to have 3. That's okay, though. All right, so that's it, huh? Yep, administrative phase. So anything was spotted. Well, it was second CSF there, spotted. Put them over. Boom, 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 boom. All right, unspotted, and we're good to go. With the marker over to the deployed markers. And let's roll into the next turn, guys. Let's do at least one more turn. We may stop it after that, just because I don't want the video to go too long. And then maybe we'll have more videos in the future. So, all right, so let's go ahead. So we already had done signal intelligence, so we know it's Operation Midway. That route activates. Move it to search attempt. Okay, I thought for a second, but no, I didn't move them up last turn, so no need to search for task forces. The Japanese movement. So first CSF, a 1. Oh, that's only gonna be 1 space, so he moves into Wake. Main body here, a 4. That is 2 spaces. He moves from Wake and then into MI4. Invasion fleet, a 6. Ooh, 2 spaces. That's the most he can move. Does not move very fast. And finally, the guard. 5. Which is 2 spaces. 1, 2, MI3. So for a little bit. They're getting closer, though. Getting closer here. Okay, so in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe closer. They may end up launching an air attack this turn. So, all right. So that was a movement. Let's go ahead and draw our marker. If the weather cooperates, it's been some terrible weather lately here in the Pacific. Ooh, submarine attack. Okay, cool. So what this is submarine marker. It has a 2 on it. Basically, they've been spotted. So what it does is, go ahead and check, a little chart here, little sheet. Drawn during the Japanese movement, which it was. You follow all friendly task forces in the space closest to enemy home base are spotted, which would be this main body here is spotted. So main body A. Gonna flip them over, see what's going on here. Destroyer, ooh, a deception marker, and then a carrier. The deception marker is discarded. Just shows that we thought there was more forces there than there really was. The Zuiho. So Zuiho is there in main body A. Now that it's been spotted, it will suffer attack. For every carrier or destroyer unit, which they have 1 destroyer, 1 carrier, we get 2 chances for our sub to get through. So we roll a 1d6. If it is a 1 through 2, the attack is aborted. If it's a 3 through 6, it attacks. 3 through 6, so there's 1. You only get 1 attack. You don't get to have multiple attacks. If the attacks 1 naval unit, we get to go ahead and select what we want to attack. Clearly, we want to attack that carrier, Zuiho. So we're going to roll to attack it. Now, the number on the counter is a 2. We have to roll that or below, so 1 or 2. It's just like a regular attack to get a hit. So let's see. So if we get a hit, it's only 1 or 2. Odds are we won't, but that's how I've been rolling lately. Yeah, no attack, or no successful hit. Those torpedoes are duds at this stage in the war anyway, right? So probably hit it with a torpedo and it just bounced off. Didn't explode. Bummer. Hey, we had a shot though, right? All right, so he is spotted. He does stay spotted. Let's see. That was the incident marker. So now we go to the U.S. reaction segment. This is where, so again, we had task forces. We can launch them, launch our carriers, our aircraft, or land aircraft. We launch fighters for same space cap missions. So we did spot him, which does, let's see, launch carrier based. It's spotted. Okay, so we have the land. So we can't do that. Okay. So let's do a cap though. So we have just the 1 fighter, right? Yeah. So let's launch our 1 fighter here over Midway to be a cap, because we know there's task forces in the area, and we don't like that. So let's go ahead and launch that cap. Him as a cap. All right. Now air launch segment for them. So looking at what they have, so main body A, Zuiho, 1, 2, 3. It's definitely close enough. So Zuiho, where is he? Zuiho right here. He has a couple aircraft, so he's going to try to launch them. So remember, we check for the bomber. We roll on the mission determination table. So let's roll for the bomber first. A 3, naval bomber. attack the task force, which there is no task force here. However, because it is a objective space that's within range, it's just going to attack the objective. So basically, it's attacking Midway itself. So try to attack the objective. And then we're going to roll for the fighter to see what he does. So naval fighter, 5 escort. So he will go with. And then let's see for the carrier strike force here. I want to see if they have the range. 1, 2, 3, 4 from Wake. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Technically, it looks like some of them have a range. The fighters have the range. I believe that's historically inaccurate. I don't think carrier aircraft could fly from Wake to Midway. I don't believe so. But I mean, it's part of the game, I guess, but pretty sure historically, because one of the things that when the retreating naval units around Midway, the Japanese were trying to get back towards Wake. They wanted to get back under the air cover, the land aircraft cover from Wake. So I don't believe they can actually reach, but it is what it is. Maybe they can. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just read a book on it, and I'm pretty sure they can't. Anyway, so we would check, though, just to make sure. So, and we have this attack coming in, but we want to check, see from the units here in Wake is who can, reach Midway, because they're going to launch an attack against Midway because they are within range, according to the game. So we do have to check to see which carriers. Excuse me if you can see my big bald head. I'm trying to reach all this stuff here. The Hiryu, the Soryu, these, let's see, the Zuikaku, and the Junyo, and then a Deception. Well, we don't know that. Junyo. So 4 carriers. Okay. So again, it shouldn't even be in the range. I don't like that. That's not historically accurate. I'm pretty sure it's not historical. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, please. I don't think historically naval aircraft could fly from Wake to Midway. I don't think that's right. But anyway, all right, enough bitching about that, right, guys? Okay, Soryu. And this is one of the slower parts of the game, figuring out the aircrafts. I apologize. I'm sure it's very exciting for you guys to see me slowly picking up units and then trying to figure out their ranges. But, and this is one reason that the game itself, it is a longer game. My first game, which is a learning game, of course, took, I think, 10 hours, around 10 hours. The game, they say 3 to 5. I don't think 3 is realistic. Maybe 5 once you really know how to play the game and you're not, filming and talking on camera, possibly. All right, so looks like some of these, so none of the bombers can reach, only fighters. Okay, so there would only be a cap anyway. I'm probably going to save myself a lot of hassle. So basically, how it works is you can see the bombers. They only have a range of 3. 1, 2, 3. So thankfully they couldn't reach. I guess the fighters, apparently, these zeros could reach all the way to Midway. However, because none of the bombers will launch because they're not in range, the fighters would only launch as a cap right here, which I'm not attacking them because I don't have any task forces, so I'm not going to roll. I'm not going to waste the time rolling. So technically, I did not have to grab all these, but that's on me. So anyway, but that makes sense though, guys. Hopefully it makes sense. Let me know in the comments below if it doesn't, but you can see how the game works when it comes to, you're launching aircraft within range. If the bombers are within range, usually fighters will either be an escort or just potentially just a cap. Just depends. You are gonna roll for that. Okay. All right. So I think that's it. Let's flip all these back over technically because including the Deception. They haven't revealed it. It's not spotted yet. All right. Okay. Whew. All right. So we figured it out, right? So what we're gonna have is. We have, let's see, they're launching their attack. Hang on. So for spotted, air units will fly. So they're going to have from main body A. And then for each base, resolve first. So they do have 1 bomber as well from Wake. So we're going to go ahead and they're going to roll to see if so land bomber right here on the chart. So 3, attack objective. So he will also go to attack objective. And then I have my cap fighter. Go ahead and place him in the cap here. And the battle marker over Midway. Oh, and then the coastal defense as well. Now, these are all bombers and land bombers of mine on Midway. They're just sitting there on the runway. They're not able to attack, and they're not able to, you know, go up as defense or anything like that. So, whew, I think that's it. I think we got everything figured out, right? Yep, we have all the units available. Okay, let's go ahead and mark her over. And mutual combat segment. All right, let's gauge the combat. So, first step, air to air. Air to air is mutual with Americans and Japanese. So we get to go ahead and pick where our fighter, he's a cap, he's going to attack, you know, their fighter or the bombers. Looking at what we got here, I kind of don't like the, well, actually, hang on. I think he's going to go after the, yeah, he's going to go after the bomber. So, put him there. Now, it's going to be mutual. So, what's going to happen is, we're going to go ahead and air to air. He's going to attack the bomber there. We're going to go ahead and roll. We have a 2, anti-air. Not a very good fighter. A 3, so that misses. Now, all their air-to-airs are going to fire at me. The bomber that I did attack, he's only has a 1. Let's roll for him. And then the escort fighter here will roll. He's a 3. It's a 6, so he misses as well. So the fighters basically, a bunch of passes at each other, nothing happens. All right. Anti-air step. Now, all ground and naval units air combat factors. All we have is Midway, which actually is a 4 anti-aircraft. So that's really good anti-aircraft. So we go ahead and pick who we're going to be shooting at, though. We're going to go ahead and choose... who should we choose? Who should we shoot at, guys? What do you think? Let's go ahead and do... this bomber here. Yeah. Well, yeah, let's do that. Okay. Let's go ahead and roll. A 1. That's good. Less than a 4. So we get a hit on this bomber here. Flip him over. All right, now the air naval, so any air units, naval combat factors, there are no naval units involved in this battle. It's all aircraft, and then ground. Air ground, so all units fired eligible ground units. So the Japanese are going to go ahead and roll for their ground attack, which ground attack is 1 and 1. Actually, I think he was a 2. No, he's still only a 1. Let's say, because it's not mutual, though, because it's a separate step. So anyway, all right, 1 and a 1. All right, so 1 for the bomber. That's a 6. And 1 for the bomber, 6. Jeez. All right, so all misses, so they are not able... they were aiming at the, you know, coastal defenses, right? They're aiming at Midway's actual land defenses. All misses here. So, the rest of the steps, there's no surface engagement because there's no surface ships. No amphibious assault, so that's the end of the battle. So, everyone can go back to... this is the mutual return segment, right? Everyone flies back. Here. Zuiho, Zuiho, Zuiho. We're going to go back to main body A's, Zuiho, which is right here. And we did damage the bomber that flies back to Wake. So the Wake bomber is damaged, which is good for us. Okay. All right, I think that's it for the mutual combat. There's no other combats been going on. Yep. All right, IGN morale, so Japanese morale. They did not lose any ships, so no worries there. Now, logistics, here's where we will check. So logistics is, remember, is their bases if they're damaged, land aircraft, or carriers. Now, we did damage the Wake Island land aircraft on the active route, right? So it's not every route, just on the active route. They can attempt to repair. So we check the IJN repair table. Let's see, reduced air unit, 1 through 4, no effect, 5 through 6, repaired. So they want to roll high, a 3, no effect, so he stays damaged. All right, G1, organization. All right, so let's see here. So we organized attack force there. We're good there. Recruit reinforcements probably. We go ahead and put him off cap. He doesn't need to be cap anymore. See, what do we have here for? I was trying to think. Sorry, guys, I'm looking for like reinforcements and such. So if I want to get Pearl Harbor. Let's go ahead and recruit reinforcements. We're going to recruit this RAAF unit, and it goes right to Australia. This one I think it's a Royal Australian Air Force unit. So, all right, it goes there. Okay, that's it for G1. G2, let's go ahead. So we try to attack there. What do we got here? We already have main body A spotted. Let's just do a operations marker. So let's do a signal intelligence. Oh, Yamato next. All right. Okay. All right. On to G3, operations segment. So a couple ideas here. Land-based, we could launch our land-based bombers here from Midway. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them. We could launch them against main body A here. Probably not a bad idea. Right, because they have a range. They all have a range of, actually, they only range of 2. 1, 2. So we can't. Oh, yeah, we need to wait till they get closer. Then never mind. Yeah, it's the torpedo bombers and dive bombers. Yep, never mind. We don't want to do that. It was the B-17s that range of 6, but they're not close enough. I don't want to send just the B-17s because they're not that great. So against naval units, as historically very accurate. Okay, so what we're gonna do then? Let's do the intelligence. Excuse me. Let's do the naval operation. So we're gonna select a route, which is we're gonna select the Midway route here. We're going to select the task force. We're going to do movement first. Select a route, naval operations, what we're going to do. Excuse me. Select a route, Midway. Move any and all task force independent naval units. We're moving this task force 16, which is made up of the 2 carriers and other units. We're moving it towards Midway. Remember, by the movement rules, we can move 1, 2. We have no battleships, won't slow us down. We also have spruance, so we can move an extra one. So 1, 2, 3. So we get to move 3. So we're right here just next to Midway. All right, movement is finished. We go ahead and draw a special marker, a incident marker. Weather. Oh, so we cannot launch and they cannot launch against us. So I guess technically, I'm trying to think. 1, 2. I don't think our units. Yeah, our bombers only have a range of 2, so 1, 2. So we haven't been able to attack them anyway. So no big deal. And they wouldn't be able to launch against us. So all right, G4. So that's it. That's it for the operations and everything like that, because of the weather, we're not able to launch any attacks. G4, let's try to repair Saratoga. One last shot. Not one last shot. We'll probably keep trying. It's a big deal to have a carrier. You want to have it back. 1d6. We want a 4, 5, or 6. Come on. 6. Boom. Of course, the turn I send task force 16. So we did build him. We built him in Pearl Harbor. So Saratoga and all of his aircraft are ready to go. I think he is. Oh, he's good to go. Here he is. So, all right. Administrative phase. Go ahead. Anything that was spotted. Main body A. I think that was it. The first spotted. Go ahead and flip them back over. All right. That is it. Administrative phase. And then put him in the used markers box. Okay. I think we're going to wrap this. So we're going to wrap my tutorial playthrough now. I think you guys have seen enough. I know you guys didn't get to see a ton of combat. You got to see some, though. So hopefully you guys understand the core of the game, right, though, is, you're drawing markers. You're moving Japanese forces eastward across the Pacific. Then on the American turn, you are responding. You are, either launching your own aircraft attacks. You are, building reinforcements, assigning them. You're reorganizing your task forces. You're moving your units around to meet the Japanese thrusts. You have to be aware they're coming in, though. They're getting closer. As you can see the game, maybe down here, not so much, I haven't moved. But Midway and Aleutians, they've been pushing. Look how close they are. I know Yamato's coming. Yamato, he will activate, which specially just heads up. And I may do another video. But anyway, Yamato, he activates 2 on his turn. He activates both the Aleutians and Midway. So the Aleutians, I'm not feeling too good about Aleutian. I think we're about to lose those Aleutian Islands. Historically, Americans did. Midway, I'm feeling pretty good. I think we got enough forces close enough. I think we can hold them off. Maybe. We'll find out, right? So, but the gameplay, how it works, and then, when the Japanese, obviously, they're close enough. If you've spotted task forces, then you can launch attacks. You can always launch attack against bases because, you don't need to spot a base. They know the base is there. And then you're going to go down to the battle display for a little bit more of a tactical look, right, where you're going to have those attacks. U.S., you're assigning attacks. You're picking who you want to attack. Japanese, they're just rolling for attacks, and then they check the priority chart. I guess I don't think they hit any of their attacks, so maybe didn't see it, but I'll have it pop up right now. The Japanese attack priority chart. You can see, whether it's air units attacking naval, surface units attacking naval, air versus air. You follow the chart. So when, like I've said before, multiple times, Americans, you pick which unit is attacking which unit. Japanese, it's more abstracted than that. You're rolling for hits. You're adding up the hits. You're then rolling to see what unit they hit. At the same time, even if they hit a naval unit, you still roll on another chart. The Japanese attacking U.S. naval units hit table. Because just because they get a hit on a carrier doesn't mean, it may only be damaged or it may be sunk. Or if they get a hit on, a cruiser or battleship, it may not even take any damage. It likely will. It may be sunk. Just depends on the hit, what you roll. So anyway, again, as I mentioned before, you continue on. You can play through all the operations markers, Japanese. You are accruing victory points by damaging, destroying their planes and ships. Although I did not do any of that. In fact, they didn't do it to me either. So, again, kind of, you guys saw some ineffective combat. Usually, again, once you're going to see, and again, I may do a second video doing more of the games. You're going to see a bunch more combat. Once they get here especially, it's going to be a brawl. But I just don't want this video to go too long by itself, because I think this does give you at least a good idea of kind of the core gameplay. Is this type of game you want to play, you want to pick up, and then how it actually works as well. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know, comments below as usual. If you've made it this far, please, you can subscribe, like the video, all those good things. I sure appreciate it, guys, sticking with it here. Maybe more videos. Let me know below if you want. We'll see, no promises. And I will have a review video coming maybe next week. So appreciate it, guys. And until next time, later.